That's your hot take on Kanye West? All right. So would you go see Kanye West?
No.
No, you wouldn't. What are your thoughts on that? It's totally my fault.
I think that's some great music.
All right, we're off to a swimming
that's
start here
definitely
as I have my computer going.
Is that Kanye's new single?
That is Kanye's new
It's a lot
single.
softer than I thought it would be.
It pretty much is. All right, I think we just got to go now. Hello, everyone. This is Close to the Metal. This is our weekly show where we talk about computing and get in depth with specific things that have to do with it. We always take your suggestions. So if you're watching via YouTube right now, go ahead and hop in there and let us know what you want to talk about. Today's topic is USB ports, and we're going to kind of cover a few things with it, whether or not, one USB port is enough for people, because everything seems to be getting thinner and thinner. They took away our CD drives, and now they're taking away our USB ports and our headphone jacks. So we're going to talk about those. We're going to get in depth with that and USB Type-C and everything that has to do with it. So we want to take your questions, and we'll give kind of a whole education on it as we go through. I'm your host, Greg Nibbler. So let's see who we've got on the table today. As usual, to my right, the man going to see Kanye this afternoon.
I'm Brad Burke.
Brad, are you excited to see Kanye?
I'm very excited. I've had tickets for like months now, so
okay.
It's been a long time coming.
All right. What's your favorite song?
Probably All Falls Down.
Can you rap it?
No, not right now.
Maybe by the end of the show.
Maybe by the end of the show.
Okay, there we go. That's a guarantees. And on the end,
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith. Hello, Matt Smith.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm not seeing.
You're not seeing Kanye
West today. I'm going to still be at work.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I do need to address too, just if you're watching live or listening via podcast, either way, there are sirens in the background. There's something going on in Portland right now. There's a fire. So we're in downtown Portland.
Everything is on fire.
Everything's on fire.
So just so you know, that's the problem.
We are not, though, but we'll keep broadcasting through this. We will fight through this.
Not yet.
So we don't really know what everything is going on. But anyway, that's why you're hearing the sirens in the background. All right, let's get on to talking about the ports. We've already got comments in here that are coming, so I'm going to make sure to get to those. So go ahead and keep your comments coming. Let's talk about these USB ports. So yeah, everything does seem to be being taken away from us when it comes to ports on all kinds of devices. With the headphone jack thing is a huge issue for a lot of people with Apple, although I think maybe it's an improvement. But now USB ports.
Is this dropping that out there?
Maybe just throwing it out there.
I got the no.
I'm an
USB
Android guy.
Here,
you are clearly big on.
I was using
Apple.
my Lightning
Mr.
adapter headphones this morning.
No big deal.
I mean, I guess they work like headphones.
Not listening to Kanye with them. All right, so there's that. But we've got right now in front of us talking about this how USB ports are going away. Largely in a lot of computers and laptops as they get thinner and thinner. And just for an example, we've got one right here with us, and this is the Acer Swift 7. And if you're watching right now, you can see this. If you're listening via podcast, it's a very, very, very thin laptop. How thin is this?
This is 0.4 inches, so 4/10 of an inch. It's one of the it's also one of the lightest, but it's one of the thinnest laptops that has been produced. I don't think it's quite the thinnest because I think like the ZenBook 3, for example, which has one USB Type-C port, is a little bit thinner than this.
Okay, and how many USB ports does this one have?
This has two USB Type-C ports.
And a headphone port.
And a headphone jack.
Still does have a headphone jack.
Which is still pretty much all laptops do have headphone jacks. They haven't gotten rid of those yet.
Not very courageous of them at all.
No, it's pretty...
Cowardly.
Pretty cowardly.
Cowardly, even. Wow. Okay. Going straight there.
Okay. But yes, so this is all you get. This is, if you are watching, you can see you've got these ports on the right side of the laptop, and they're all clustered together there, and that's what you're living with.
And that's it. And you have to deal with everything with just those two ports.
Yeah, if you in other laptops like the ZenBook 3 that I mentioned, or the Apple MacBook, the 12-inch one, you get one port. So that's not a lot. People are probably, if you have a system that's a few years old, you're probably used to having, 3 USB ports at least.
And even then you fill those up pretty quick.
And again, these two USB ports are it. So that's video. Except for the headphone jack. Video, any sort of other kind of port that you might be used to,
charging,
Ethernet,
anything, yeah.
Yeah, charging. There's no charging port on this. You charge through the USB. So
and Ethernet. You're right. I mean, if you're actually working on a dedicated workstation, that's it. There's one gone.
And that's what I was going to mention too. That like you mentioned optical drives, and I think Ethernet ports were also one of the things that went away when they went for these thinner laptops because it's it's a very tall port especially compared to Type-C, compared to even like HDMI. That's a pretty sizable port, and you have to make space for it, and that was one of the things that went, like, first of all.
But reducing it down to just 2, not even, I mean, then I would think you would need 3 just because people are going to be using an Ethernet of some kind. But still, that's taking that away. Matt's kind of comparing a couple of them right now to see. I don't know what
so like Ethernet port is pretty much as tall as the entirety of this laptop. Right?
Yeah. So I guess it did have to go.
So they had to get rid of that one.
Okay. So we're seeing this, and this is just an example of this, continually happening. This is happening in other laptops too, correct? Like
yeah,
USB
this
ports aren't
holiday
going away.
season seems to be like where it's sort of I don't know. It's the changeover for a lot of the high-end laptops. They're starting to go over to these new kinds of ports. Apple was the first one to do it with the MacBook last year, and no one followed suit immediately. But now we are seeing a lot more systems come out like this.
Chase in the live chat said, "I think Apple has a problem with ports," which could be thoughts.
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's all about whether or not you think it's going to be future proof. These laptops they're kind of betting that you're going to deal with the problems of having limited ports because you think it looks so nice and because it's more luxurious and it's lighter and it's thinner, and you'll be willing to make those sacrifices to enable that. Because if you're not willing to make that, then there really is kind of like a limit to how thin you can get a laptop. Mm-hmm. Just due to the fact, like I said, the Ethernet port is as thick as this entire laptop.
I mean, where do you think we're going with that? Do you think there is a way that they would eventually get rid of pretty much all of it and have some? I don't know. How could you ever get rid of all of the ports?
Well, I mean,
you do like a contact system,
Yeah.
where you like charge your laptop by setting it on something, and there are contacts at the bottom.
Yeah.
Wireless
Wireless
stuff.
charging too.
Power, you would need a contact system. Mm-hmm. Probably, although I do know there's some wireless charging technology.
Well, I mean, yeah, you could set it on a platform or something. It's a similar idea.
But yeah, otherwise, technically, so we have Bluetooth for a lot of your connections, and you've got, so that's like you could do keyboard and mouse through Bluetooth.
Yeah.
There is wireless HDMI. So you could potentially connect to monitors through wireless HDMI. What else? Audio. You can do that through Bluetooth. So there's sort of the groundwork is there for like this wireless future, whereas it's not quite not quite there yet.
Well, there's going to be some growing pains on the way. You have to there's sort of this back and forth balance between like, yeah, you want to pick up a system that has Type-C, of course you do. It's a great standard. But, like, you don't have anything that connects to it yet, but you will, but you need to buy the system first. Like, it's got to go back and forth for a while, I think, before there's more adoption.
Well, let's actually talk about that when it comes down to Type-C. Like, maybe just for anybody who doesn't know, I mean, nobody in this room doesn't know, the evolution of USB. So we've gone from USB to Type-C. What exactly is Type-C? Can we just give like a brief description of...
That is a great question. I'm glad you asked it. So Type-C... it describes the basically the shape of the port.
Okay.
So we've got here is an adapter for the Huawei MateBook.
Okay, so it's just a little adapter that you've got here, just for anybody who can't see this at your...
Yeah,
you can plug in and... Okay.
So what we have there
Standard
is
adapter.
the Type-C port, and it is basically, I guess, a very small rectangular port that...
Smaller than a standard USB port.
That is a standard
Much
USB
smaller,
port. So it's like over, half. It's like smaller than half. And you can plug in either direction.
Okay.
Which was like one of the big features. Like that's something like when Apple went Lightning, like they were so about that. They were like, you can plug it in either direction. It's so easy, just whatever, and that was nice.
Yeah.
Well, now you can do the same thing.
And that's what we're looking at with Type-C.
USB. So yeah, that's the Type-C port. It's very thin. It is about the same size as Apple's Lightning port. So it's going to fit on a wide variety of devices, including phones, which we do have a Windows phone. Maybe not the best example. There are phones that people use that have this port as well. But yes, it is showing up on some phones. I think there's a OnePlus phone.
And the new Pixels have it too.
The new Pixels have it.
The Google Pixels do have USB Type-C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's all very useful. But importantly, like, this is describing the shape of the port.
So
not the standard.
And it's just the shape. That's
right.
the only difference that we're looking at so far.
Type A would be the like standard rectangular, only works one way.
Yeah, the one you're used to.
That you're used to seeing. Type B is the one that you use for your printer. It's that like sort of
that weird rectangular
pentagonal,
one that you get the
with like
cable
a
and
weird
you're like,
edge.
what is this for?
That's a Type
I hate
B
that
port.
cable. Okay.
And then you've also got things like micro and mini B and micro and mini A, which are things like you would find on Android phones. I think the most recent one was micro B. I can't remember those.
It's very confusing, and that's
when you get to the minis
that's
and
part
micros.
of the idea behind Type C is that is Type C, which can kind of make you think, oh, it's kind of like not the main one, but it's actually really like trying to replace everything else that is in the USB ecosystem.
Right.
All these confusing ports that you have all these different wires and they don't fit together. They just want to make it so you have this one very simple port.
And that's the goal of this. The evolution is just to so that everybody eventually is going to adapt this Type C.
Hopefully.
Okay.
I mean,
and that's what we're hoping for. Except for Apple, which will have Lightning Jack.
Well, that's an interesting. Like, I was actually thinking about this for the podcast. It's like, I'm not sure why Apple wouldn't end up going Type C in the future.
Because they're Apple. They don't do what other people do. Like they're gonna.
I know. And that would be the only reason though, because like they came out with Lightning, and they were like, there was like legitimate design reasons when Lightning came out for that. It was like a really nice, easy to use port. But now it's not really, like a lot of those reasons have gone away because Type C is available. So
and I remember I was on Trends with Benefits, I think before these ones came out, the iPhone 7 came out, and we were talking about, we pretty much knew they were going to take the headphone jack away.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that it would be really, really cool if they took the headphone jack away, but instead swapped Lightning for Type C. That would have been an actually like forward-looking move to say like, maybe the headphone jack is going away, but we're trying to embrace this new standard that everyone's going to embrace, because that probably would have brought on a lot more adoption, like a lot faster adoption for people to say like, oh, I can actually charge my Type C to Type C off my computer on my MacBook,
But
and Apple's MacBook has it. So like, and they were actually the pioneer kind of it, like doing it before anyone else.
But they're not going to put it in the phone though.
So like, I don't know. Like that doesn't make a ton of sense. But anyway, maybe they'll do it with the 8. Who knows?
Okay. Well, back to the understanding the USB types, and again, we're talking about how laptops in general seem to be taking away ports. Now we have this new Acer Swift that's right here that only has 2 USB ports. They are Type C, which we're learning about the Type C, but they're also 3.1.
So 3.1 is the underlying standard.
Okay.
So if you actually, what is it? Is it light blue or is it dark blue? That's 3.1. There's actually color coding. So
don't worry. Yeah.
If you look at your old USB ports, your Type A ports, you'll see that there are different colors of the interior piece, which are supposed to indicate the capabilities of the port.
Okay.
So a black interior piece means it's 2.0, while a blue one means it's 3.0.
Oh, okay.
And a light blue, like a baby blue, is supposed to be like 3.1 revision 2.
Okay.
And then there's also like Razer stuff has green ports for some reason, and there's you don't have to follow the standard, but it's there.
Okay.
So the idea is that Type C is a 3.1 standard. So the data that flows over it is the same that you could get off of that blue or baby blue. I can't remember which one is which, the port. But it's the 3.1 just indicates the capabilities of it in terms of bandwidth, in terms of feature set.
Faster.
It's faster.
Okay.
Well, actually, that is an interesting point, because the Type C is not a 3.1 standard.
Isn't it?
It is not. And that is where it gets very confusing.
I'm okay. Okay.
So,
Type C is the size.
Type C is the shape of the port.
The shape of the
port.
3.1.
3.1 is the connection standard.
Okay.
There are Type C USB devices that are 2.0, or at least one.
Oh,
it was a phone. Do you remember which phone it was? I think it might have been even one of the OnePlus phones. I feel like it was either that or a Huawei. I remember it getting a lot of crap because it came out with a Type C connector, but it was 2.0.
Seems really silly.
Yes, it was silly. And so it got a lot of crap about that. But anyway, so the 3.1 standard, the newest standard, really what you need to know about that is it's faster than the old ones.
Okay.
By a lot.
3.1
by
is
a lot.
better.
So, it's 10 gigabits per second standard. And
that's pretty
2.0
fast.
was what? Like, I think it was 280, if I remember from my pre-podcast homework. It was 480.
480.
Okay. So, megabits per second.
Damn. So that's a big difference.
That's a big difference. That's something, I mean, really, an old USB 2.0 port, if you connect something like a solid state drive to it, you can't actually push the limits of the solid state drive because the standard's too slow. So yeah, USB 3.1 is the standard, and generally you see them together, which is why people think Type-C and USB 3.1 are like the same thing. If a manufacturer is going to the trouble of putting Type-C on their thing, they're usually also going to go to the trouble of doing 3.1. But not always.
Okay.
So do watch out for that.
So that's something that somebody can look out for when they're purchasing. Look
yeah.
to see
yeah. If you think about it, maybe
3.1.
just take a quick glance, see if it's Type-C 3.1, because if it's something like 2.0, which does happen on some devices, it's going to be a lot slower.
Okay.
So you'll get that convenience, but you're not getting the speed that you would expect.
Okay.
The other thing to look out for there on that note would be
again, just for anybody tuning in, the sirens in the background are actually happening. We're not dubbing them in just for effect, but
yeah, it's a really exciting episode. There's gonna be explosions.
Brad's trying to get himself ready for the Kanye concert tonight, so that's why he's doing this. Okay.
That at least early on, I'd have to pull up the link again. There were a lot of cables, a lot of Type-C cables, because Type-C has a high power, high support for a lot of power, which lets you charge devices, which is great. But a lot of cables weren't up to that standard. They weren't able to use that much power. And there was a Google engineer, I think, that was basically leaving bad Amazon reviews for these companies and saying don't buy this cable because you could damage your device trying to charge with it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the poor guy, I think he ended up frying his Pixel Chromebook, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a Type-C port on it he was charging through, and the cable was, no good, and it ended up frying his computer.
That is something to watch out for then. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that is something important to mention about these Type-C ports. We mentioned that Acer doesn't have a power port, and that's because USB 3.1 Type-C, with that, you've got enough power that can go over it. We all know power has been a thing on USB for a long time. That's why you can buy an external hard drive, and a lot of times you would not have to hook it up to external power, especially if it was one of the portable models.
I mean, you can charge a phone. Yeah.
Mouse, same thing. You don't need another, cord for your mouse. But with these new USB standards and ports, you can actually deliver enough power to charge your device. Okay. And that's one of the big selling points for things like laptops. Because, if you own a laptop from pretty much any time period, you've got this power connector, and it probably connects to one thing, your power brick. And oh boy, if you lose that power brick, you better be willing to pay either $150 for a new one, or you're out of luck.
Yep.
Just about. It's pretty rare.
So that is a nice evolution.
You'll be able to find something to plug into that.
Yeah.
And be safe about it at least. So yeah, that's a really nice new addition.
And it's good that laptops are sort of doing that on their own, because it's something that in the EU they push for on mobile phones, that they were saying as a matter of waste, people buy these new phones and there are lots and lots of chargers that don't work with them anymore. And it was just lots of extra plastic and rubber and metal that was getting thrown away because you get a new phone, you don't want the old phone, charger, and you throw it away.
Yeah.
And so this is a good way, I think that's a reason that Apple might move on their phones at least to Type-C, is that they're going to have to start providing adapters to every person who buys an iPhone in the EU, because they don't follow the standard that they're saying you need to follow,
That sounds like a pain. That sounds like a real pain.
And they might do it in order to keep people on Lightning. So.
Okay, well, now we're starting to understand here. So the USB 3.1, definitely better, definitely a lot faster. What's the Thunderbolt 3?
Oh, now things get really
Now
confusing.
things going to get, okay, maybe I'm going to regret asking that question. Thunderbolt 3, so talking about the different levels here.
Thunderbolt has always, a little backstory there, has always been sort of a fast, a high-speed transferring connection. So back in the day, if you had only USB 2.0, but you wanted a really fast external drive, you could use Thunderbolt. And this is one of the ways you could, it's a really high bandwidth standard.
Okay.
Thunderbolt is now over the Type-C connection. So Thunderbolt 3 is like, it means you have even more bandwidth and even more power, especially over a single connection. You can plug your thing in and run your monitors and your USB devices and your SSD all off the same Thunderbolt connection. And I don't know, we've seen some laptops that have it and some laptops that don't.
Yeah.
I've never
MacBook.
noticed, like, the MacBook is one.
Importantly, like, that's one that has Thunderbolt 3. And so the way this is like something that seems really strange, probably, but the way it all works is basically Intel was like, when it came out with Thunderbolt 3 spec, they're like, hey, like, if the device maker decides to put the hardware that supports it into their computer or phone or whatever, we're going to make it so that Thunderbolt 3 works over these Type-C connections, and you can plug it into the same port, because we don't want you to have another port. That would defeat the point,
right?
Of having USB Type-C being the one port thing.
Yeah, if you have to have a different port for that. Plus, everybody's scaling back their ports anyway.
So it looks the same, but it's not the same. That you have to actually have the hardware in your device.
So you need the hardware to be able to use a Thunderbolt 3.
Yeah, because there's internal connections that enable that. Because Thunderbolt 3 is like 40 gigabits per second max.
Wow.
So 4 times quicker than USB 3.1. So yeah, it's going to need its own hardware to enable that. But the big thing about Thunderbolt 3 is that we mentioned, like, this Acer doesn't have any video outputs, and actually I don't think this Acer has Thunderbolt 3. But when you talk about devices that don't have any video outputs, Thunderbolt 3 is what's going to be really great for making that video easy to do. Because you can take the Thunderbolt 3 and you can actually, like, daisy chain it to multiple monitors.
Wow.
Off
well, yeah, I guess if you can get 40 gigs per second transfer speed.
And so that really solves your problem of not having, the port. I mean, you're still probably, assuming you're using your current monitor, you're still going to need the Thunderbolt 3 to HDMI adapter for each one.
And if you want to daisy chain them, you're also going to need a Thunderbolt 3 monitor.
You're going to need different, this is the downside, right, to all this innovation. But yeah, like, Thunderbolt 3 is really the solution you want to look for if you're concerned about how am I going to do multi-monitor off of really
one USB
device. Yeah.
Okay, so Thunderbolt 3 is the secret answer to everything. That's what you really want. That's the end. If you really want to go high end, Thunderbolt 3.
I would feel like I would want it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
But that's something you have to look out for when you're buying a laptop that's going to be in the hardware. Thunderbolt 3.
Yeah,
so you need to look at the specifications to make sure it can handle that.
Right.
And look out, too, because we've seen some manufacturers in the early days will, like, hype up their port as being like, it's like a Type-C super port.
What does that mean?
And they'll say, like, it has both the capabilities of USB 3.1 and Thunderbolt 3. If you get a Thunderbolt 3 port, you are getting a 3.1 port as well. I believe that's
so
the
it
case.
doesn't really matter.
If your port supports some Thunderbolt 3, it also supports.
It's like, we have this thing, and it's like, of course you do, because
it already
that's the
is
standard.
That. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
It's like, we have an HDMI port, and would you know, it puts out video.
But that's ours. That's our special super HDMI.
Buy it from us.
Yeah.
You heard it
the
here
other guys
first,
won't
folks.
tell you about this. All right, so Thunderbolt 3, definitely the one that you want to go with. Let's talk about the evolution of this, of computers, of where we're going with this. Do you think we're going to be scaling back to one USB port soon? Because now we're down to 2 on a lot of these newer laptops, the 2 Type-C ports. Sounds like that's pretty much across the board. Everybody's scaling them back to go thinner and thinner. Where do you think this is going? Where are we going to end up with this? Can we get by with just one port?
I was thinking about this, and I say all hail our one port future.
You're on board with one port.
Really?
It is coming, and it's not going to be. There's going to be problems, but it's coming. This is the way it's going to be, and I imagine it'll probably be this is the way it's going to be. Maybe a little sooner than you would think.
Really?
Maybe 3 years or so, you'll start to see this really starting to become dominant, I think. And some people are not going to like it, and they're going to want to resist and have all their ports, and that's fine.
I'm one of those people.
I can definitely see that being
it.
necessary for certain situations, but I do think that this is going to have a lot of appeal and benefit for the average user.
But doesn't it mean you're just going to have to buy another adapter so you can plug in everything into that one USB port?
Like eventually you'll have every laptop will just have Type-C ports instead of Type-A ports. And at that point or sometime before it, we're also going to start seeing, we've already seen Type-C SSDs, external SSDs. We're going to start seeing mice and keyboards. I mean, like everything that is Type-A now, I think will eventually switch its way over to Type-C.
But if you've only got one port to work with.
And this is my problem is that I am definitely a two-porter here.
Yeah.
Especially I think
two-port man.
Well, and I was thinking about it too, that like when I travel especially, I need two ports. Like that's the time when I'll sit down somewhere at like an airport and I'll plug my laptop in and then plug my phone into my laptop, and I can charge both at the same time. Yeah. And if I have two ports, I can do that without also having to like go fish out a dongle and attach my little splitter so that I can get both in there. Yeah. That's just for me. I think buying a laptop like this, I wouldn't do it. I'm not the right user for this kind of laptop. This super
just
thin.
Because of the two ports.
Well, not because of the two ports, because I do like to have my HDMI ports, and I like to have an Ethernet port, and I like to have extra ports on my computer, and I don't mind carrying around something that's a little heftier for that convenience.
But soon
I'm
enough,
not the target audience for this computer, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I do think Type-C, I think most computers coming out should have Type-C, but if you're going to go this route, I had a Dell Inspiron, I think, tablet-y thing, 2-in-1 early on in this process, and I liked it a lot. I liked having two ports, and I did carry around a dongle so that I could plug in my mouse or my SSD, but having that second you can charge, that's the big thing for me, I think, is being able to charge your computer and have something else.
And your phone or whatever else.
But at the
plug
same
it in
time,
external.
I think if I had one of these, I would probably have a little dock like this little Microsoft.
But see, then if you have to carry around another dock.
But I wouldn't carry around the dock. The difference would be that I would take the laptop with me when I go somewhere, and then all you have to do is sit down at your desk and plug that Type-C in. And you've got power, you've got your external monitor, keyboard, mouse, SSD. Like, you've turned set up a desktop setup. It's like the docks they used to have.
The dock is a temporary solution too. Like that's the other part of it is, as we move more and more towards wireless stuff,
towards like wireless
charging. If you
charging
buy this today, you're gonna probably need a dock. All right, but you're kind of on the leading edge of technology, and you figure that you have to make some sacrifices to do that.
And this is the Acer
3
Swift
years
7.
from now, I mean, like we already know keyboards and mice, they work great without
Bluetooth.
wires.
Yeah.
Audio is starting to get there. So that's going to leave your monitor. But we do have wireless HDMI already, and I think that a lot of people who buy laptops don't use an external monitor anyway. So that's not really that big of a deal. Wireless internet's obviously already, very predominant. It's everywhere. So I don't think there's actually that many obstacles to having the idea that you just get something like this, and 99% of the time you have no wires connected to it, except maybe the power plug.
But that's the thing, if you're charging over that port, then that is your only port for that. So if you need to charge your computer, you can't do anything else, right? Except
if you need to charge your phone or something?
Or if you're charging the computer through the USB.
And you need to charge your phone?
Or you need to plug in
phone,
or you need
I
to
mean, I understand that, but that
port.
sounds like one of those use cases, like when people are like, "Oh, I don't want to," like with the no headphone jack, the iPhone. People are like, "Well, now I can't charge and listen to my headphones." It's like, I don't know. Maybe
so
you're
saying
that.
People should plan ahead. Is what
most people. No, I'm saying most people don't normally do that.
I think there. I think there are more use cases though for a 2 versus 1 port system. Like, how often are people charging their laptops? Like, and especially if you get something this thin, this probably doesn't have like a huge battery in it. We have to assume. I don't actually know what the size of the battery is in it.
It's not bad.
It's not bad, but okay, well, fine. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
Take that, Brad.
Like, I think having to charge your computer and use it for something else that requires a plug is not an uncommon circumstance. I don't think that's like a super specific use case.
Not right now, but in 3 years,
that's not going to be the
more.
case.
For a lot of users, again, I think this is like, for the casual user. For me, I'm always going to carry around something this thick. That I don't think that kind of laptop is going anywhere. The bigger mid-sized laptops, like it's not like this is going to be every machine.
I think it'll be the majority of them. Yeah.
Do you think what about gaming laptops? Those are going away too.
Yeah, Matt.
And again,
Those
that's
going
a
away
very
too?
niche thing that most people aren't going to care about. Like, yes, we all know gaming laptops are thicker. That's
Brad,
been the
apparently
case
you're a
for
niche
long time.
audience. You're a niche consumer.
just
Most
saying, I
people
think
don't buy
there's-
gaming laptops, and in fact, we generally recommend people don't buy gaming laptops. It's because like they're not a great value proposition. Yeah, I mean, you got to think like you can always come up with these edge cases of like, well, maybe you do this and maybe you do that, but you know, most people get these devices and they just like want to do a few things on them, and they most importantly want them to work with minimal confusion.
Yeah.
And I do think that having the minimal ports and wireless is the way to go with that.
See, and here's where I've got another counter argument, in that you say they want minimal confusion, but I'll tell you right now, if I gave my dad one of the like MacBooks with just a single Type-C port, that would be really confusing to him. That I'd be like, he'd be like, well, where do I charge it? Well, you use that port. Well, like, what if I want to use my mouse? Like, that's also that port. It's the same thing, and that would lead to like a whole
I'm gonna
conversation.
guess he's not aware of Bluetooth.
No.
Well, okay. Like, sure.
But I'm just
your
saying,
dad
it's,
who
like,
doesn't know what
confusing.
Bluetooth is.
It's
isn't gonna be able to use
confusing.
Bluetooth.
Like that, there's going to be.
Yeah, no, it's not.
That he's going to be looking for a power plug.
It's
and,
not
like,
confusing at all. You press the button on the mouse and it shows up on your computer. Like,
I'm just saying that there's the one port thing. I think is going to confuse people too. There's going to be growing pains here.
Are there systems with one port right now already out there?
The MacBook.
The MacBook.
MacBook.
Is one port.
Yeah.
So
And Zenbook
anything
3.
else though?
So Zenbook 3.
Zenbook 3 is also
Yeah.
just has gone
So-
to it's completely just one port.
One port. Yeah.
All right. Well, so Brad will not be buying those.
No.
No.
He
Okay,
will not
we've
be.
established that.
You will be throwing them in the flames.
But it sounds like basically, Matt, you're saying that pretty much every laptop is going to go to one port.
I mean,
in the near
I think
future.
that that's going to be the trend. Yeah.
And Brad, you're saying that these kinds of your kind of laptop with all the special ports is still going to be around for a while. People are still going to want those. All right, it's a tough call there. I do like having all my ports.
You even have a disk drive over here.
Yeah,
Look
I
at
know
that.
this one's got a disk drive.
Wow.
I thought that was some sort of like really high speed port with like maybe an external PCI Express.
You can't
you
take
can
my
stock a
disk
card
drive
right there.
away.
the video card in there.
No, I'm still that guy. Yeah, I listen to my CDs on there. But no, it's. I think Brad is right. There is going to still be a market for people just to have more ports because it's going to take time to get used to that idea of only one port.
The laptop singularity is a little further away
Yeah.
than that.
Oh, sure. Like, there's always going to be systems like that. But I think you're being a little reductionist about it. Like, yes, there will always be systems with more than one port. I'm not saying every
Well, I
single
think there's
computer
going to
that
be more
exists will
demand
be
for
one
it.
port.
I think there's going to be more demand for it than you do.
But I think that this sort of design with, minimal size, one port,
And a
is
black and
eventually
gold
going to
paint
become the standard.
The standard, and that's where we're heading for it. All right, well, there's two different views of the future, kind of, here on the show today. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. So any final comments on USB Type-C that you gentlemen have?
Put it on your phones.
Yeah.
Phones are a really good place for USB Type-C.
Yeah.
Phones. You're
Super
an
awesome.
advocate of the phone.
Yeah.
All right, you both can agree on that?
Yep.
Okay, but not agree on
It's
Kanye.
good. It's good.
All
USB
right.
Type-C.
Well, if you're going to Kanye West in Seattle tonight, you might see Brad up there. Say hello to him. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning into this show. So we do this every week. Close to the Metal is the name of it. And we love to hear comments. So if you want to leave comments on this video or send us emails, podcast@digitaltrends.com. We go live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So, let us know what you think. And subscribe to the audio version on iTunes and Stitcher and anywhere you can find podcasts. And we would love to hear from you. So thanks so much. We'll be back next week with another episode.